Jungkook's tears broke out amid the cheers of the concert, as BTS's Jin suddenly delivered an emotional message that not only shocked thousands of viewers, but also left a big question: what exactly was going on behind the moment? In a grand stage that was supposed to be filled with enthusiasm and cheers, one of the most touching moments in BTS's post-military concert history was born. Jin's sentence, which at first seemed simple, turned into a profound statement that hit emotions, not only for ARMY, but also for his own groupmate, Jungkook. The incident took place in a matter of seconds, but the impact spread widely. The stage camera captured Jungkook's drastically changed expression, from a small smile that greeted the fans' greeting to a speechless face that slowly lowered its head. Then, tears began to drip. The festive atmosphere of the concert instantly changed into silence that carried the emotional burden. At that moment, Jin, in a loud but restrained voice, delivered an unexpected sentence. "During my absence, Jungkook continued to take care of everything. I'm so proud of you." Suddenly, Jungkook's response could not be contained. Despite being known as an emotionally strong figure in public, this time he was unable to hide his heart tremors. He turned his face back, covered his face with his hands, then wiped away tears while trying to stay standing amid the glare of the lights and thousands of watching eyes. The audience fell silent. The moment lasted for a few seconds that felt like long minutes. On the big screen, Jungkook's tears were clearly visible, and the emotional atmosphere at the concert site felt so real. Jin's statement came at an unexpected time. In recent months, public speculation about BTS's internal dynamics after enlistment has continued to emerge. Issues regarding psychological pressure, shifting roles in the group, to the absence of some members in important moments became the subject of heated discussion on various platforms. However, no one expected that Jin, the oldest figure in the group, would take the conversation into the public sphere and do it live on stage. What makes this moment even more emotionally heavy is the context of Jin and Jungkook's relationship over the years. Jin is often regarded as a protective older brother figure, but also often hides his sentimental side behind his trademark jokes. Jungkook, as the youngest member, often harbored a burden of expectations and responsibilities that he never revealed publicly. Therefore, when Jin acknowledges Jungkook's struggle in person, publicly, it's not just an expression of affection, it's an acknowledgement of a burden that may never have been said explicitly. The ARMY's response was no less emotional. Social media was flooded with short clips recording moments of Jungkook crying. Many admitted that they cried seeing the emotional honesty that was rarely shown by the members on stage. Even some international fans called the moment the rawest BTS moment in years, describing how rare it is for BTS to showcase their fragile side in a large-scale concert like this. Furthermore, the moment opens up deeper questions about the emotional stress that BTS members may experience after the group's hiatus. Do they still feel comfortable expressing themselves openly? Are there invisible dynamics they are managing internally? Is Jin's statement a form of recognition that Jungkook has been carrying a bigger burden than it seems on the surface? Jin did not explain in detail the message behind his statement, but his sentence, delivered in a firm but low tone, implies that there is a great concern, perhaps even a sense of guilt that he has been harboring. Phrases like, "I'm not there to see how you're struggling, but I know and I really appreciate it," become the emotional core of the whole moment. In a brief interview after the concert, the agency declined to comment further, only mentioning that Jin wanted to express his gratitude and appreciation for his bandmates. However, for the public and loyal fans, the moment was too powerful to simply be taken as an ordinary phrase. That's a rare form of emotional honesty, especially coming from a major figure in the industry who is often expected to perform flawlessly without emotional gaps. A number of Korean pop culture observers also provide analysis that this incident is an indication that BTS as a group is no longer just a symbol of the strength of the Korean entertainment industry, but also has become a mirror of human reality, about fatigue, struggle, and support between people. As such, Jungkook's cry is not only a personal representation, but also a collective emotional resonance of a group that has long stood under the spotlight. Also worth noting is the reaction of other members. Jimin was seen giving direct support to Jungkook by holding his shoulders from behind. Suga and RM seemed to be holding back emotions, while V just stared silently at Jin, as if understanding the deepest meaning of the message. This interaction adds a dimension that this event is not just an event between two members, but rather a symbolic moment that unites the entire emotional dynamics of the BTS group. The moment also saw a major shift in the way BTS chooses to communicate with their fans. Where before emotional messages were delivered through letters, social media, or closed-door recordings, now they choose to express them directly without filters, without scenarios, and without scripts. And this is precisely what strengthens their position as authentic and humane artists in the midst of an all-curated entertainment world. Now, the big question hangs. Will Jin's statement be the starting point for a new narrative in BTS's journey? Is this a sign that the group dynamics will be more open and emotionally honest in the future? Or is it a symbolic farewell to a time of internal pressure that has never been discussed publicly? Whatever the answer, one thing is certain. The concert that night left a deep imprint, not only on Jungkook, Jin, and the other members, but also on ARMY and the global public who witnessed the moment with their own eyes. Jungkook's crying is not a weakness. Rather, it was the most human form of power possible that had so far rarely been shown by an icon as large as himself. And in a world that often encourages flawless perfection, it's moments of honesty like these that will always be remembered, as reminders that even in the spotlight, they're still human. However, behind that harrowing moment, one fundamental question is worth asking. Is this incident entirely authentic? Or is it a narrative construct deliberately shaped to create a certain emotional effect? In today's digital age, the line between reality and engineering is often blurred. Crying on stage can be an outburst of genuine emotion, but are we honest enough to admit the opposite is possible? Is the moment really happening as it appears, or has it been filtered out by the media's point of view, visual edits, and deliberate narrative framing? It cannot be denied that the virality of this moment is accelerating very quickly. The multi-second clips spread through TikTok, YouTube Shorts, and X, Twitter, in just minutes. In less than 24 hours, the topic of Jungkook crying after Jin's message became trending globally, sparking mass emotional reactions. But the question is, why did this moment go viral so quickly? Is it because of his emotional strength? Or is it because social media algorithms are designed to spread emotionally draining content? Furthermore, we should ask, who benefits the most from the virality of this moment? Are Jin and Jungkook as individuals? BTS as a group? Or is it precisely the entertainment industry itself that is always hungry for emotional narratives capable of reaching audiences across national borders? Behind every incident that provokes public tears, there is always a layer of communication strategy that deserves a critical look. We recognize that this information has been gathered from a variety of sources, from social media such as TikTok and YouTube, to snippets of comments and analysis from online forums and live broadcasts of concerts uploaded by fan sites. However, it is important to highlight that not all information in circulation has been independently verified. Some of the video footage may have been edited to highlight a certain emotional side, while the original context of Jin's statement may have changed due to inaccurate translation or one-sided editorial framing. Therefore, do you really believe that Jungkook's tears came purely from Jin's message? Or is it a complex reaction that cannot be explained with just one sentence? Even in the world of celebrities, emotions on stage are not something that can always be interpreted literally. It is also possible that the two, Jin and Jungkook, use the stage as a strategic communication medium to the public to reinforce the narrative of their relationship amid internal issues that had been only a whisper behind the scenes. Even more provocative, what if this moment was indeed prepared in advance? This does not mean that it is completely falsified, but that it is calculated in order to create a certain psychological effect. With BTS gradually returning to activity and global media attention starting to loosen, moments like this can be an effective tool to reclaim the spotlight that previously had moved to new groups. Of course, this does not mean that we should blindly accuse them, but at least we need to realize that behind the world of entertainment, nothing is really spontaneous in the absence of a certain intention. This is not just baseless speculation. We've seen similar patterns occur in many cases before. Actors who accidentally burst into tears at an award show, musicians who suddenly reveal a personal secret on stage, or groups that announce an emotional breakup that then becomes a promotional tool for a new album. So the question is, are we witnesses to emotional reality or victims of sophisticated public engineering? But of course, skepticism does not mean cynicism. Precisely in the fast-paced and viral information age, a reflective and analytical attitude is indispensable. We invite you, readers, fans, and observers of pop culture to not just dissolve in the flow of emotions, but also analyze the patterns that make up the narrative. Ask, who is speaking? In what context? With what purpose? And what impact does it have on public perception? For example, if it is true that the genie delivered the message spontaneously, why is the sentence so structured, powerful, and seemingly too perfect to be ordinary spontaneity? Why did Jungkook's reactions appear almost simultaneously, as if there had been emotional synchronization before? Is this a coincidence, or a sign that there are elements of the previous preparation that we do not know about? Questions like this are not to bring down, but to open up a healthier and more realistic discussion space in looking at idols. Idols remain human, yes, but they are also in an industry that makes emotional narratives a commodity. Therefore, we as a public should begin to develop stronger media literacy, not to drift easily into framing, and not to immediately accept a moment as absolute truth, just because it seems emotionally touching. We emphasize that the information in this article comes from a variety of sources, including social media, fancam, as well as international fan discussion forums. While we strive to present a complete narrative, we cannot guarantee that all elements collected are entirely factual. Therefore, it is very important for you as a reader to be active in verifying information, checking primary sources, and questioning all forms of emotions that are deliberately produced in the context of the entertainment industry. In the end, moments like Jungkook's cry are touching, and it's entirely possible he was sincere. But still, we should not turn a blind eye to another possibility, that in a world controlled by cameras, narratives, and economic interests, even tears can be a strategic communication tool. So, what about you? Do you believe that the moment is completely real? Or is there something that has not yet been revealed behind the scenes? Are we witnessing emotional honesty? Or are we being shown a script that is very neatly written to create maximum effect? We will not answer it for you. But one thing is certain. The world of entertainment always has two sides, the visible and the hidden. And it's our job as a critical audience to keep asking questions and not to believe easily. If we look deeper, this phenomenon is not just about tears or warm hugs between group members. This is a reflection of a new pattern of communication between artists and their fans, no longer through songs, albums, or interviews, but through emotional gestures displayed in public. But this is where the big question arises. Are their emotions entirely their own, Or are they already the property of the public who come to determine how they should feel? In this case, we see Jungkook as a figure who very rarely shows blatant vulnerability on stage. When he finally broke down in tears in front of thousands of spectators, the public immediately welcomed him as a rare and honest moment of emotional honesty. But if we stop for a moment and analyze, why is this moment happening now? Why not when Jin just returned from the military? Why at this concert, and not in a private or closed moment as they usually choose before? From a public communication perspective, moments like this are very effective at restoring image, re-establishing attachment with a global fan base, and reinforcing the narrative that BTS remains emotionally united despite having faced very complex individual dynamics. In the entertainment world of South Korea, which is very structured and full of communication strategies, events like this can be part of emotional architecture, namely the design of public emotions in a directed and measured manner. Of course, this doesn't mean we're accusing Jin and Jungkook of pretending. Not at all. But what needs to be highlighted is how their personal emotions can become part of a systematically organized public narrative. In this context, emotions are not only felt, they are curated, capitalized, and marketed. What is our role as a spectator? This is where the public position becomes very important, even decisive. Will we continue to be passive consumers who dissolve in the flow of emotions without ever asking where all this comes from? Or, on the contrary, to be a critical observer who remains capable of being touched, but not easily controlled? Let's take a simple analogy. When a movie makes us cry, we know that it is a production. We know that there is a script, there is directing, there are camera angles that are deliberate to evoke emotions. We can cry because of the good acting, but we are still aware that it is a fabrication of art. So, when artists in the real world cry on stage, why do we immediately believe it to be absolute truth without questioning the context, motivation, and possible manipulation of emotions? Furthermore, how does this moment affect our perception of Jungkook? Do we see them as more human? Has the image of the always strong golden magne begun to shift to a more fragile and open? And will this rebrand be used as part of BTS' brand strategy for the next phase of their journey? Just as important is the question, why did the mainstream media choose to highlight this moment so massively, rather than other substantial issues such as work pressures, the future of the group, or internal conflicts that actually have more impact in the long run? Are cries and hugs more selling than factual reports that are more complex and not as popular as stage plays? To answer all these questions, it takes courage to come out of the comfort of being a fan. It takes courage to refuse to be part of a passive audience that accepts all emotions as entertainment. Because otherwise, we will continue to be the object of narratives controlled by others, the media, the industry, sometimes even the artist himself, who understand very well that human emotions are the most easily exploitable resource. We also need to realize that in the post-truth era, narratives often have more influence than facts. When a video shows tears, we tend to immediately believe that it is sincere. When the media write a title full of emotion, we believe that the story behind it must be in line. In fact, facts can be fabricated, emotions can be sold, and the public can be directed. Therefore, skepticism is not a form of hatred, but precisely the highest form of critical love. Being an intelligent fan means loving idols mindfully, being able to feel the emotions they present, but still being aware that not everything needs to be believed blindly. In conclusion, we invite you, the readers and spectators who witnessed this moment, to reflect on some of the following reflective questions. Do you feel that the moment of Jungkook's crying and Jin's message really happened spontaneously, or seemed too perfect for such a natural emotional occurrence? To what extent do media and social platforms influence your perception of the truth of the moment? Have you ever questioned who benefits from these kinds of moments? And most importantly, Are you still able to distinguish between real and formed emotions? Big moments like this will never stop happening. But how we react to it, that's what will determine whether we are enlightened spectators or simply passive consumers of an industry that never runs out of ways to touch our hearts, even if it has to be through tears.